Hello, everyone. This is Live Life Well TV host Robert Landau, and we are back with the third in a very special three-part series called COVID What Now? If you missed the first two installments in this series, the first one was entitled COVID Variants, which aired for the first time 2 weeks ago on Live Life Well TV. And then just last week, we aired the second part called COVID Vaccine Side Effects. If you happen to have missed those two episodes, they are still here and they will always be here. So do go back and take a look at them. But this third part is entitled Life After the Pandemic. Very, very important topic. And we have a wonderful special guest with us, Ms. Gwen Wilburn. Gwen happens to be the Senior Vice President of Clinical Operations for Retirement Center Management. And we will start this third part in just 1 minute. Okay. 3, 2, 1. All right, it's time to welcome back our special guest, Gwen Wilburn. She happens to be the Senior Vice President of Clinical Operations. If you don't know Gwen and you happen to be meeting her for the very first time, go back after this episode and check out the show that we did interviewing Gwen, where you will hear about her amazing background and what she does for RCM. The show is entitled Meet Your RCM Executive Staff, where we interview Gwen. But Gwen is here now. Welcome back, Gwen.
Thanks, Robert. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you. So, we called this third part in our three-part COVID series Life After the Pandemic. And I think it's a really important discussion to have because I think everybody in their heart of hearts, no matter where they live on this planet, really is looking forward to life after the pandemic. But what we're going to talk about in this episode are kind of steps to take to actually get to that place, even if that place might be a little different than what we're hoping it's going to be. So, Gwen, start us off with wherever you'd like to start concerning life after COVID.
Oh, thanks, Robert. And you're right. It's such an important topic. We are all looking forward to life after this is over with. You know, we this last year or so, we've lived through so much. We've had to accommodate new way of thinking, of living, of the way we do things, and that's taken a little bit of a toll on our systems. Some of the things, though, we think are going to stay around for a little bit, even after this is over with, because we know COVID's going to be around. It's going to be around. It's not going away. We're just the hope is that it will be controllable. So, some of the things like telemedicine, we think that that's probably going to stay around a while because that's an extremely convenient way for people to have their healthcare provider visits, especially for seniors that don't get out as well. Disinfecting is going to become this big, sales pitch, I guess. Everybody wants to know, well, how are you keeping everything clean and sanitized? So that's going to be everybody wants to know that now. Restaurants will probably display their sanitation inspection, so things like that. Home delivery, groceries and shopping. It was pretty popular before, but even more so now. So that's probably going to stay around for a bit. Hand sanitizers, every time you walk into a grocery store, you see the hand sanitizer display. That's probably going to be around for a little while as well. So those are just things that we're going to start to accommodate. Public restrooms, instead of having to touch everything, they're going to be helping us have a no-touch system, no-touch sink, no-touch flush, no-touch door, things like that, just to keep us from so easily infected. Those are great things to stay around a while. Handshakes. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, are we ever going to go back to handshakes again? That's hard to say, um,
Yeah, handshakes. I'm like a hugger. That's just me. So it's
Yeah,
been really difficult not to
yeah,
hug. Never mind the handshake, but I go straight for the hug, even if
yeah,
I'm meeting somebody for the first time, and it's just so frustrating for me.
yeah.
But this thing where you kind of,
Although, yeah,
yeah, that to me feels just as good as a handshake. So I've been okay with that.
yeah. So yeah, we do wonder how that's gonna play out. And if you think about it, if you think about after 9/11, we weren't accustomed to taking our shoes off for flights and going through those the inspection like that. But it just became part of our norm. So some of these things are just also going to be part of our norm. We've learned to deal with it, and they're going to just be incorporated into our daily lives. Other things that we may see more of are vaccine passports. I mean, I know some of the airlines are already wanting to make sure that you are negative or have a vaccine to fly. So we may be seeing more of that. It may be, they have the UV robots that are sanitizing the hospitals. So we may be seeing more of that. They've got these drones that are delivering your packages now. So we may be seeing more of that. So it's just a lot of technology and different things that have been created that may keep on going. So if you think about clean is the new green, that's how we need to think of things. Clean is the new green. So that the green initiative is really big, but so is clean.
You reminded me of something that I encountered just last week when I went to a Walmart close to where I live. And I heard when I was in one of the food aisles in the supermarket area this noise. And it wasn't going away, and it was getting louder and louder. And I looked down one other aisle, and there was this robot
Mhm.
that nobody was manipulating to work, and it was, just as you said, sanitizing the floor, and it looked like something out of a science fiction
Yeah,
film, or you know what, it kind of reminded me, if you remember Lost in Space,
yeah,
the TV show back in the 60s, where there was that robot, danger, Will Rob, and it
danger,
really,
danger, yeah.
it was a miniature version of that, and I never thought I would live to see the day when that would become a reality, much less at a Walmart. But you bring up a very important point, Gwen, is that when there is a disaster, such as 9/11 or COVID, there are many good things that come out of those type of things that actually help make life better, whether it's for our safety, whether it's for our health, or both. So many of the things that you just mentioned that have had to be established and instituted because of COVID are actually really great things.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that some of the things that we will continue to see are good things. If you have to look at the silver lining, well, that could be a little bit of the silver lining anyway. Another thing that I want to bring up is another aspect of what it will look like after the pandemic. There was a study that came out from CDC that said about 20% of people over the age of 60 had sought out mental health care or were on medication because of the pandemic. And so that's something that I really want to address is that yes, we've had to put in a lot of effort, a tremendous amount of effort to protect our seniors, especially from contracting COVID. And some of those mitigation factors that we had to put in place, had a toll on their mental well-being. I mean, as much as we focused on our seniors and everyone's physical well-being, and we had to. It's definitely time to take a look at mental well-being as well. So I want to make sure that we address that. And I know some folks have this stigma against seeking out mental health or seeking out help for mental health, but it is so important because we know that your mental health, like stress or anxiety, can also affect your physical health. It can decrease your immune system, which our seniors already have a weakened immune system. So it's like this cycle. We don't want to be in that vicious cycle. So anyone listening to this today, I want to make sure that if you're feeling down, or if you're not wanting to do the things that you used to want to do, or if you see your loved one or resident or anyone that is, change in eating habits or change in sleeping habits, or not wanting to do the things that they used to love to do, have that conversation. I really want everyone to know it's important to seek out that help. It's for your emotional well-being. It's extremely important. And I think that we have ignored that, unfortunately, over this last year, and in part because we've had to. There's so many things that we've had to put in place. We couldn't have a lot of visitors. We couldn't go out into public places and things like that in our communities. And those were very important too, because that's what protected them. But we also need to have that focus on mental well-being. So I really want to bring the attention to that. So saying that as well as part of the post-pandemic here, it's getting better, right? We know that our numbers are getting better. People are getting vaccinated. So, there's definitely a light at the end of the tunnel. So I love that. I love that our seniors can have more visitors now. I love that they can hug their grandchild now, things like that. It just warms my heart knowing that, hey, we're more protected now, and we're also looking into their mental well-being. So about 78% of seniors have gotten at least one vaccine. This is nationwide. We're doing better at RCM. 55% have been fully vaccinated. So now they have that added layer of protection. So not that we can just go out and do anything, because seniors are more at risk, but at least that is another layer of protection against the fight against COVID. So that's so important to know. And I know it's been a little difficult for some, just because it's, this entire last year we've been extremely protective and told them how they need to, protect themselves and be careful and this and that. And now we're saying, okay, well, it's okay to do these smaller things. It's okay to do this. So it's like, I compare it to dipping their toe in the water. It's, let me try this out, see if this is okay. So whatever is comfortable for that senior, I want to make sure that they feel comfortable with loosening up some of those restrictions, because it is important that they take care of their mental well-being as well.
Yeah, mental well-being is very important, and actually is something that I don't think has been looked at in depth. And I'm really glad you're looking at that and addressing that issue on behalf of RCM. We've always encouraged, and I say we because I'm kind of an extended member of RCM in so many ways for so many years, but there's always been this initiative to get residents out of their apartments,
right,
and socialize. Socialization is so very important, particularly during an epidemic. No matter what stage of the epidemic we find ourselves in, it's important to keep contact with the outside world. That's actually the main reason why Live Life Well TV was created on behalf of RCM and RCM's residents. Because, okay, if you can't get on a bus and go to the theater, if you can't have a life enrichment lecturer come in and lecture to a full lounge at an RCM community of 50 to 150 residents, well, you can tune in. And it's the next best thing. So, yeah, that's almost the downside of something like COVID, is that it's left a lot of people a little empty. But I always believe that that's also the choice of the person to always make sure that they don't isolate themselves. Mm-hmm. And those who live around them, family members, RCM staff members that care for them so beautifully, will always strive to keep them connected to the outside world. But it's also the initiative of the resident as well. So yeah, that's a very, very important thing that RCM has been addressing from the get-go with COVID. Yeah. So, yeah. Anything else you want to say about this very important topic of life after COVID?
Well, that's really about it, Robert. I just wanted to make sure that everyone, the main point being that we do need to address any mental issues. We do want to address any emotionally, any emotional distress that anyone's having. So we want to address those issues. I think the communities have done a fantastic job of keeping or helping keeping those residents connected somehow. A lot of that was through technology and through what you do. And so that sometimes it's just not quite the same as what that in-person meeting can be. And now that we are able to do a little bit more of that, and there's still some guidance, some restrictions or whatnot, but at least it's more than it was before because we want to do things safely still. So there's that fine balance. It's a good balance. So I just want everybody to know that as we work towards life after the pandemic, we're still going to keep everybody safe, but we're going to look at both sides of it. We're going to look at how can we be safe physically and emotionally. So.
Well said. And so life may never return to what life was like before the pandemic. But you know what? That may not necessarily be a bad thing because I think you remember when the pandemic first made itself known, there was this thing about, we'll never return to what was normal before the pandemic. But really, what was normal? I don't think anything is ever normal. So I think it's about just reaching within to our inner strength and just making the decision that no matter what happens, we will get through this. And RCM has in so many major ways. And I'm so glad you are part of the RCM executive team because you have been instrumental in helping everybody at RCM, whether they're a resident, whether they're a staff member, whether they're a corporate entity, get through this rather difficult and challenging time. So life may never return to normal, but maybe, as they also say, a new normal might end up turning out to be better than what we thought was normal before. So we'll just have to see.
That's so correct. So correct. So many things that we can do better and that we're doing better. And so we've learned so much through this time. So you're right. It's some people don't like the term new normal, but really that's what it is. So.
Yeah, and you used a very important word in your description just now of what you shared with us, and that is learn. We've had to learn so much about what is safe, how life can go on, and how strong we individually are because of COVID, which will make a huge difference in what life will be like as COVID starts to die down. It's important that you said that we may never see the end of COVID, kind of like, I hate to compare it because there's no comparison, kind of like the flu. I mean, the flu is with us and it's just something that we have learned to live with. And I think the same will be concerning COVID. But it's people like you that make such a big difference. So before we close, anything else you'd like to say about this topic?
No, that's really it. Just everyone keep their head above water. We're going to get there. We're getting there.
And that's a very good way to end. And I think, Gwen, we're not only going to get there with people like you and so many that are watching this episode, we are getting there, and that's paramount. So Gwen Wilburn, who happens to be the Senior Vice President of Clinical Operations for Retirement Center Management, thank you so much for being with us for this special three-part series. Again, folks, if you haven't seen the first two parts, go back in the channel and take a look at them. Gwen, thank you so much for being with us throughout this series.
Absolutely. Thank you, Robert.
And we look forward to welcoming you on more episodes of Health and Wellness Tips. Thanks, everybody, for watching. This has been Robert Landau, Live Life Well TV host.